Tinubu's government, they are paying hundreds of billions of naira to terrorists every month just to manage them. An allegation that Ribadom, your national security advisor, debunked. But El-Rufai is still working. And he's repeated it again. That, yeah, Nigeria, Tinubu's government, despite the fact that they are buying these terrorists, they are giving them money. The terrorism has become so widespread, money making industry that it's not going to end. So how can you be fighting terrorism at the same time funding terrorism? An allegation that the likes of El-Rufai, the Kaduna Little Finger, right? They are an experts. They are very good. So when it comes to them going to America to explore or exploit this gap, you can imagine the damages that this is probably going to be, or how serious it is, despite the fact that they might want to play it down, like the way they speak on TV and all that, right? For them to say, man, we need to act. We need to send people to America, okay, from this house. So they will go to America and approach the committee that is discussing this S5 something bill. And tell them that whatever they have, forgetting the fact that there is a documented evidence, both video as well as well-documented evidence, the killing in Southern Kaduna, the killings in, the middle belt part of Nigeria. Everywhere it happened, the burning of churches, the kidnapping and slaughtering of, church leaders, pastors, reverend fathers, bishops, and all of that, like they've slaughtered. So all these things have already been documented, presented to as far as United Nations. So it's going to take them a lot to now say all of that is not true. Or convince them and say, okay, yeah, So how would that affect you? It will in a lot of ways. It can actually be the bedrock for what is going to be a regime change in that contraption. And they are not taking any chances. They are pushing back. In the Senate, they got a place, I think, a red chamber or something. But before Kalu, there is another guy who spoke there too on their pushback.
Our federal constituency, Edo State. Mr. Speaker, some of us here may not fully appreciate the import of this move in the U.S. Senate. It has been read twice on the floor of the Senate and referred to a committee as we speak. And if we do not take urgent steps to nip it in the bud and it passes the Senate, to reverse it will take us a longer time and cost us even more resources. Mr. Speaker, the main problem here comes from one, those who deliberately demarket Nigeria outside the country, including Nigerians, for a variety of reasons. Two, gross misinformation deeply embedded in the nature of the American educational system. In other words, for many of the children, many of the parents, even some legislators, still look at Nigeria with the eyes of the 1950s and 60s. They do not believe that this country has matured and grown beyond this issue of ethnic contestations and disagreements and dislodgements over issues. Over the years, we have gone beyond this. I can't even remember when last communities started fighting because of the Bible or the Quran or because they want to worship Ogun or Shopona. No, Nigerians are concerned with existential issues. And I think the bill or the motion as ably presented by the Deputy Speaker requires us to use all the networks we have and to encourage all the relevant committees of the House and also get the Senate to get involved in this, to engage those who are handling this matter on behalf of the US government. When Ted Cruz raised this issue, many people thought it was just a statement. It is not. There is an agenda designed to rubbish some of the progress we have made so far in rolling back those elements, those contradictions, those contestations that have continued to undermine our democracy and encourage the institutions and agencies that have promoted corruption and misunderstanding in our society. Mr. Speaker, I support, as a co-mover of this motion, I support the way it has been presented, and I urge my colleagues not to think that this is just an ordinary statement. It is being pursued methodically in the US Senate, and we must engage it before a conclusion is reached. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Nuisance lele.
Absolutely. What's your name again? Pambana. I am grossly misguided on top this matter or another thing. Because a lot of people have developed their own conspiracy theories and all of that, right? So, how is Maiyegun grossly misguided on this subject matter? I know you can't talk back to me right now, but you probably will be still typing in a short form, right? But you can correct me though, if you think I am grossly misguided. Are there killings in Nigeria? And what do you consider as a genocide? From my own understanding, they say any killings that is more than 100, Abi, is a massacre. So the one that is above 200 is a genocide. And what about the ones that is in a tens of thousands? What do you call that? So here is a thing. People can use words to try to possibly conflate things or confuse people and even themselves. But there are some existential evidence that it's not really hard for you to put together. So here is the thing. People are being killed in Nigeria. The one that puts Nigeria on the map as a terrorized country, right? So you have the Boko Haram, you have the Lakurawa, you have the ISWAP, you have all these guys and Fulani terrorists. So people are like, what do they want? Let us start with, if you are Fulanis, for instance, we have states in northern Nigeria where you have Fulani majority of Fulani running things, which means you can always be from those places, Fulani states. There are states as well where you don't have Fulani majority. They are in the minority and all that, but they exist, which means what makes them exist where they are, right? Didn't just happen in the last 20 years. Must have been there for a while. Then, if you are pursuing religion, like the Boko Haram, you have states in Nigeria where you have Sharia, where Sharia is being practiced. So you don't need to begin to kind of like go into other areas where they don't practice Sharia and want to enforce that on them, as Boko Haram have done. They kidnapped school children, they converted them to their wives. These were school children, these were Christian school children that were kidnapped from a community, from communities that were known to be Christian communities. These were evidence, so it happened, right? So we have had the Fulani terrorists who have wreaked havoc everywhere. The people they are calling bandits. We have seen these Fulani terrorists killed worshippers. They killed worshippers in Katsina. They killed worshippers in Zamfara. These are two things that happened just last month here. They were Muslims. So my point is this: as a government, right? People are being killed. You don't need any agenda from anywhere. People are being killed. People are being chased from their communities. You have over 20 million Nigerians who are living in different refugee camps right now. Nigeria is not at war. So I want you to educate me how I am grossly misguided, except if you are probably like thinking about something else. This is happening because the government of Nigeria, starting with Boko Haram, enabled it. They downplayed it by enabling it behind the scene. They had no plan of prosecuting these terrorists. They created Operation Safe Corridor. Operation Safe Corridor was for the terrorists who repented. Who does that now? So is that also being grossly misguided? So they allowed these problems. So they turned it into a money-making thing. People are dying. So if they say, no, it's not just Christians that are dying, fine, I agree. It's not just Christians, right? But is that their defense if Christians and Muslims and others are being killed by these terrorists? Who are those killing them? What is the relationship between the government and those who are killing Nigerians? So are we going to pretend about that too? Bambi Alabi, what's that your name again? So how am I? So if America is taking advantage of that, right, to act like they want to do something, even if their intention is not noble, do you really think it requires the America's intervention or expose before somebody like yourself realizes that the criminals running Nigeria, it is either they are incompetent or they just don't give a damn? And the only thing they have to protect is just their own personal image, which they don't even have. The National Assembly continued to say Tinubu is doing well when it comes to this. The same thing they told Boko Haram. They are denying those who are being killed, being buried in mass graves. People, they are picking bodies of people who they called infidel. And your government is offering them amnesty. Openly, they are celebrating them being rehabilitated. The more the said terrorist, surrender terrorist, the more or the bigger the terrorism. Like, it's not stopping. Your government is offering to build ranches for terrorists who are holding war weapons. Ranches for them. That's the relationship. The rest of the world is watching. Oh, the argument continued, by the way. Here is another one. Mind you, this one believes that it is the diplomacy that they should work on. Maybe send some people to, Nigeria doesn't have an ambassador to America right now, but they could still use some diplomatic thing to go and explain to America. Do they need to go and explain to America or to explain to you? They are supposed to be explaining to Nigerians, telling you what they have done for real. But no, they don't hold you in anything. They will write speech. They will write prepared speech. Another, the command executed an operation yesterday, and we executed about 200 terrorists. Why they are telling you that one? You go hear the breaking news. They don't kidnap another Kiniko. They are in Zamfara. Or they've killed another for the Kiniko, in that same breath. And you're like, where are the 200 terrorists you killed in so and so? But yeah, let's use diplomacy.
A very proud Benin chief. Mr. Speaker, this is a very, very sensitive and serious issue we have at our hands right now. Mr. Speaker, Nigeria cannot afford to avoid global politics. Just like my honorable senior colleague alluded, Honorable Sada Soli, that what we are seeing here is global politics. and we cannot shy away from it. It is not enough to say we are being targeted as a country, but we must put in place the necessary machinery to fight a cause like this. Mr. Speaker, as we speak, I don't think Nigeria has an ambassador to the United States. As we speak, I don't believe Nigeria has a permanent representative to the United Nations and so many other countries. Considering the role Nigeria plays in the African continent, Mr. Speaker, I think at this point, even if we succeed in doing this investigation and getting these reports, the America that I know, they have their own procedures. If we don't have the proper channel that they recognize, I'm sorry, that investigation and report might amount to nothing. At this point, Mr. Speaker, I think it should be one of those channels to reach out to Mr. President to see a need, why we need an ambassador to the United States, why we need a permanent representative to the United Nations, because at some point, these are the people they want to discuss with when it comes to Nigerian issues. You and I might not be able to go there unless we go through the parliamentary avenue, which is also a channel. But again, this calls for a holistic solution. While the executive is finding a way to resolve these issues through that diplomatic means, the legislature should also be looking for a way. Why do we have the Nigeria-US Parliamentary Friendship Group? Why do we have the Committee on Foreign Affairs? This is the time, Mr. Speaker. This is the time to wake up. Let's begin to interface with our colleagues in the US Congress, in the US Senate. Why do we have the IPU? Because things like this will come up. We are not only saying this for Nigeria. At some point, we are fighting this fight for Africa. Because if we let this go through, Nigeria will just be the first in so many other countries in Africa. This is why Nigeria cannot afford to fail, not only Nigeria now, not to fail Africa. So, Mr. Speaker, my honorable colleague,
ọ̀rọ̀ tó sọ yìí ọ̀ ń ṣeré ni àbọ̀ ń ṣe èrè ọ̀rọ̀ tó sọ yìí ọ̀ ń ṣeré ni àbọ̀ ń ṣe èrè.
Inshirini. Mr. Speaker, we must, what are you talking about, mate? You actually don't owe America any explanation, except if you want to say, okay, you know what, America, we have a problem. We need your help. Do you understand? Like you ask for that help diplomatically and say, America has identified the terrorists. They want to also name and sanction the terrorist enablers. You know the way that they do with Donald Trump executive order. Once they push up, and it becomes something that their Senate, they are the one controlling their Senate now, the Republicans. And then boom, they pushed it. And they passed it, right? Simple majority or something like that. Donald Trump with his executive order, he won't even need the executive order for this one, or maybe you could just use more executive order to. So what that simply means is that they will now put names, starting with your president. They will now be able to put names of those they believe are enabling these terrorists and pushing Islamic agenda beyond where they've known them in Nigeria, northern Nigeria. Sure you get. So the pushing of blasphemy law is also part of the issue, not only the terrorists too. Just so you shall know. What that means is that you will now see state governors who will then be put on like red watch, alert. And you know America as well, right? They will begin to pick your governors. You say, yeah, that governor, they all their money, everything that is associated with them, once